Hi, Perry Lawrence here for Small D Film School, and in this episode, we're going to talk depth of field. I'm going to show you step by step how to tweak your camera to give you the crisp foreground and a nice blurry background. Stay tuned. Okay, here it is to tweak your camera to get this great depth of field. Now you want to have a fairly fast lens. I'm using a 50mm 1.4 on my Canon T2i. So the first thing we want to do is set the shutter speed. Now, as I mentioned in my article previous to this, you always want to shoot double the frame rate. So the frame rate I've set at 24, and the double of that would be 48, obviously. Well, unless we're using a modified software, we can only get 1/50th. So set your shutter to 50th. That's close enough. Now that's going to do a couple things. The 24p plus the 50 shutter is going to give you close to a 200-degree shutter. Now that's a lot of film mumbo jumbo, but really what it means is it's going to look a lot like film. So that's what you want to do, 24 frames a second with double the shutter speed, or 50. If you've got Magic Lantern, you're going to want to set that to 48. Now, step two. What we want to do now is set the ISO to around 200. You can go lower than that, you can go higher than that, but that's a great starting point. Set your ISO to 200. All right, here it is, step three. What we want to do is adjust the aperture. The wider the aperture, the less is in focus. So what we want to do is start at around 1.6, 1.4, depending on how fast your lens is. You might have to go up a little higher, but that's a great starting point. You want to have a wide open lens. Now, if you get it too wide, it's going to be very, very narrow, and when you lean in and out of that little focus area, you're going to be coming in and out of focus. So a little bit wider. I don't like to go all the way wide, because if I'm shooting by myself and focus is critical, it's going to be a little bit tough for me to get my eyes really crisp and in focus. So 1.6, 1.8, around in there really works well. Now check your exposure. If that's not working right and you don't have enough gain there, if you don't have enough exposure, but you're liking the depth of field that you're getting, go ahead and up the ASA. Or, I'm sorry, the ISO. If it's a little too bright, then by all means, step it down to 100 ISO. Now you're playing back and forth with the ISO and the aperture to get your depth of field looking good and to get your exposure looking great. Now, in order to figure all of this out, I use two apps that come in very handy. The first one's called, and it's a free app on my iPhone, the first one's called Depth of Field Calculator, or simple DOF. So just search online. You can get, there's so many depth of field calculators. It will tell you, and I'll show you, you set it for the type of lens and type of camera. Now we've got some things to play with. We've got our 50mm lens. We've got the distance that we're working in. We've got the aperture. Now it's showing us what area is going to be in focus at 8 feet. Beautiful. Everything beyond that's going to be out of focus. Everything in front of that's going to be out of focus. So now we can narrow down what's going to be in focus. Another little app that I like to use, just to get my exposure closer, you know, without having to eyeball it, I use a little thing called Light Meter. It's a free application. You hold it up and it'll use either your front camera or your back camera. You define what your shutter speed is, what your ISO is, and then it'll tell you what your best optimal aperture setting is, your f-stop. So check it out. Both of those apps come in very handy to get some great quality film-like video. So that's it. Follow along. I'll post some more information in the blog below. Check it out. I'd love for you to leave me a comment and shoot some great looking film this week. Talk to you soon.